All right, Robbie. Our social media guy, Dan, has a number 1 through 5 behind his back. What number is it?
I'm going to go with number 2, my man, Derek Jeter.
Is it number 2? Yeah. It is number 2.
Wow.
So you got the option, Robbie, 1 through 5.
I'll take the first pick.
All right, Robbie's
got
taking
something in mind.
He's got something in mind.
And fuck.
That's tough. That's tough. All right, 1 through 4.
What did I tell you, Danny? I want to pick I wanted to pick in front of Robbie.
1 through 4, Carl.
3. All right, I'm taking the fuck.
Well, you can pick in front of him for round 2 if you want.
It's not as important.
I know who Robbie's taking, but sorry.
I will take.
You may think.
I will take the. Sorry, I'm thinking. I'm going to take the 3rd overall pick.
Okay. 1 through 3, Chief.
3.
Holy shit, we got ringers today.
I'll take the 4th spot.
Okay.
Wow, the chances of this happening, probability-wise,
Crazy.
it's like a 1 out of 60 chance.
I mean, Danny could do this every time just to move the draft along, and he doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Now we'll
less
see
than a
if,
2% chance of this ever happening.
let's see if we're perfect. Whitesoxdave, 1 or 2.
Come on, Dave.
1.
No, show me. See it.
He got it. All right, do you want
Wow.
2nd or 5th?
I'll take 2.
All right, Whitesoxdave gets the 2nd spot. I get last by process of elimination. Right? Is that the right word there? Process of elimination.
Yeah.
Okay, so the order is Robbie, Whitesoxdave, Carl, Chief, Eddie. Let me check real quick what the date's going to be. Date's the 12th. Okay. All right, Bang Bang. Today is Monday. It is April 12th. Welcome to the Dog Walk presented by Barstool Sports. Snake Draft Monday. Second-time guest, but he was on a guest with actually.
I was not there.
Yeah,
Oh,
Chief
that's
was not
why I
there.
don't remember.
Or White
Yeah.
Sox Dave wasn't there. So, Robbie, this is like your first official with the full crew. Robbie, welcome back.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to have the full crew here. Big Dog Walk fan, big Barstool Chicago fan, so I'm happy to be here.
Second time we've had Robbie on a content thing this week. He smoked our ass in the dozen.
Yeah, we got
fucking housed.
We got bent over a handrail and violated.
Gross. But yeah.
Honk, honk.
I mean,
What?
White Sox Dave just needs that honk honk. There should be. There, Brandon Walker has that, but you should have the goose.
If we get a new office, actually, I want a duck that walks around that you can like train to honk when
We were
someone's
walking
winning.
around our new office today, actually, and scoping it out. And the interior decorator at one point was like, I got to stop taking ideas from Dave. We go, what happened? Dave's over there asking for gold-plated light switches.
He wanted
I wanted a batting cage. I wanted
a brass
spittoons.
brass spittoon.
That's it. And he wanted Pete to come back every week to change out
Yes.
the spittoons.
Yes, and wash them out and everying. I
Pete
asked
did
for-
not like that
It just got to the
idea.
point where
Speed
Dave started
bag.
talking. They're like, all right,
And
guys.
Pete actually is like, actually, we could probably do a speed bag. He didn't agree to the batting cage. I just wanted to get some tee work in here and there.
There we go.
But yeah, so Pete was just trashing all my ideas.
Yeah, rightfully so. Probably right.
Yeah, and you know what Pete is, Ed?
What?
Pete's a nerd.
Pete is
Pete is a nerd, and that's today's topic. Thank you,
Great
Dave.
transition,
How was that?
David.
Yeah.
This is really impressive
that?
by
Yeah,
Dave.
I'd
Wow.
say-
How was
Yeah.
that?
Dave, do you do this for a living?
70.
I'm getting a little
75.
better at it.
Yeah.
70, 75.
That's a Hall of Famer right there.
Yeah.
So today's the official nerd draft. Robbie, explain the nerd culture, and you wear this as a badge of honor, right?
Definitely. I think it probably would have been harder to wear as such a badge of honor if I was born in a different generation. But nerd culture has blown up into the mainstream now. It's kind of okay to be a nerd. It's kind of cool to be a nerd sometimes. And yeah, I was excited that you asked me to do this. The way you asked me, I thought was so adorable. You were like, I hope you don't get offended about this. Like, I hope it's cool. You don't take any offense. Like, bro, my podcast is called My Mom's Basement. I get it. I got a lightsaber on my arm. I got Batman on my arm. I get it. I'm a nerd.
Yeah,
I just
but,
wanted
like,
to be.
you're a different
I just
kind
want
of
to make
nerd,
sure I was being respectable
You're right.
about
You
it.
want
No,
to
listen, it was
respect the nerds.
It was the perfect Eddie text. It was. I really appreciated
Oh,
it.
good.
But
good.
I said this when we were touring the office. Like, Robbie's like transcended. Like he's like such a nerd that he's like maybe the coolest guy I know.
No, that's
Like
just it.
that,
So you're
like,
not a
he-
nerd.
Like he's just unapologetically himself, which just gives him like an air of coolness. He's got a lightsaber tattoo on his arm, which somehow works. He's got the hair going now too. The flow's going. The beanie. Robbie's got like cool guy vibes, so I don't know. I think we might want to kick him off the podcast.
I mean, he's an authentic guy, and you're like Mr. Authenticity. So I think it's just
No,
like a
I know.
match made
That's
in
why.
heaven,
That's
right?
why I have nothing but love for Robbie.
Is that a Star Wars shirt you're wearing?
It is, yeah. This is the Japanese edition of Return of the Jedi poster. I got this at Star Wars Celebration in Chicago. That's why I wore
very
it,
cool.
actually.
That's a
nice
Hey,
touch.
that was actually nice of you, Bob.
It's a nice touch.
Is there like any value to that shirt? I feel like that's like probably limited edition, pretty hard to get your hands on.
Yeah, you can't buy it anymore, so maybe it is a little valuable.
There you go. And also, as people should know, it was supposed to be a 6-man draft. All Business Pete did decline.
He declined. He was invited. He
Officially
declined.
What do you think we got to do to get him on one of these?
I don't know. I'm over it now.
That would have been interesting too. I think me and All Biz Pete are like the two opposite spectrums of the nerddom. Like he's the
He's
tech
the
nerd,
uncool
smart
nerd. He's the
And
uncool nerd.
He has like the brains. I'm like the pop culture nerd. I just like the nerdy shit.
Yeah, for sure. And it's going to be interesting to see how this one falls. I think it's going to be people who we consider nerds, whether they be real people or characters from whatever.
Yeah, because
it's not going to be like, oh, if you're like the rocket science department at Harvard, like, because then we're just going to pick smart professions, you know?
Yeah.
So
Are we picking people, or are we picking nerdy things, or are we picking? Because I asked for clarification last night. I didn't really understand, like, because I've seen
Bad
in
look
the
for
past.
Ed. Bad look for Ed that the
Well,
guest
it's all
that
that
was
they
already
said
on here,
nerds.
and that's
well,
the guest
Robbie,
is
well,
asking.
what if I told you I sent a text to the other 3 people on this panel and only one responded?
Who responded?
Ooh.
Carl was
I asked
the
a
only one
question.
that responded.
And
Yeah.
the question I
well,
said
that's what I'm
was-
saying. I wanted to try and see what you guys want to do, but
And I'm
Chief
always here
Dave-
for the clarification and
Yeah,
talk things
no, I
through.
got you.
By
So,
the
like,
time I saw it,
These guys.
you
So
had
I
already
tried.
said never
I know.
mind.
So at least give me that, Carl. Like,
No,
this
it's just, I
is-
respect.
yeah.
I'm saying I shouldn't say it was a bad move. That's why I said bad look, because I know the audience is going to interpret this as like, oh, Ed wasn't out talking and putting the message out there. No, you would put the message out there. Although we
tried.
don't talk to the guests, you talk to the
Yes,
guests.
yes.
Now, Robbie did very quickly say, I want the number 1 pick when he could have had any pick. So he has enough clarification to know he has the number 1 pick on his board right away.
Which is going to be a person.
I don't know
It's
what it
not a
could.
person.
Like he's
So
so
that's
Ed's-
why I
So
asked
see, now
for
this is where we get
clarification.
tough, because he says, I want the number 1 pick.
So
and
I don't
well,
know
it's
what
not
to
a
do. I
person.
don't know
We said, hey,
what would the people out there like Commissioner Ed to do when I ask people what they want and they don't
I
respond?
have a lot of nerdy shit on my list. Like,
so
that's sort
the
of, I
text
prepared
that
a lot
we
of
got
nerdy
said we're
shit.
drafting nerds.
nerds.
I took that as in a fictional character or a real person.
Likewise.
But a Star Wars convention isn't a nerd. That's a nerdy event.
Yep.
It's not a nerd though. A nerd's an actual person, be it fake
Are
or
you
real.
fine pivoting to nerd, Robbie, and then we could get into nerdy shit after?
I can pivot on the fly. Yeah.
All right. I guess that's what we're gonna have to do.
Yeah, we're
Right?
good. We
Yeah,
left
I mean,
it. I thought
I
it was
think-
left open ended, so we'll go.
Unless if you want to keep it full, if you want to keep it wide.
I
I'm
did
fine with doing
peoples.
either.
My research is people. So it's basically we would be asking Chief in Robbie to narrow. We'd be asking me and Dave to broaden. So from people, we're like, okay, now is it easier to narrow your list down, or is it easier for me to add things to my list on the fly?
I asked Ed when we saw it like an hour or two ago, and I was under the impression that it was going to be like people or fictional characters.
Yes.
Okay, so that's what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought too.
Okay. No, we'll
If
keep it.
everyone's on that same page, I can pivot.
All right. Thank
I
you,
think we should just let Robbie
Great guess.
do his thing. Like he is the king of the nerd culture right now. Like if
No.
he,
I'm gonna pivot. I'm
Okay.
not gonna.
All right.
You can pivot, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not gonna take any exceptions here.
All right.
All right.
Because
So,
I already, since we started, let me start by saying this: I had no people on my list, not a single
Whoa.
person.
Oh
fictional
no!
or real. It was all
That's
nerdy, but I already have a first pick in my brain that I think is so strong that I'm ready to go.
Okay.
all right.
All right. I'm
Fuck.
interested to see
Feel
what
bad.
it is.
Sorry, but I don't know what to say.
Should Robbie step up to the podium?
Well, we got to talk about Roman first, guys, because obviously most people have tried different ways the last longer in bed, thinking about baseball, thinking about nerd shit. I don't know. Does that work for you, Robbie? I mean, it might help, but you'd rather use a clinically proven way, right?
I guess you could start thinking about theories. You could start thinking about who's this guy, who's that guy. You could start thinking about the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and then
Princess Leia pops in your head though, and all of a sudden
that's an issue.
Yeah.
You don't want that.
You don't want that.
Get a Roman swipe. Get that dick going like a fucking lightsaber.
There
boys.
we
There you go.
What a fucking transition out of Carl. That wasn't a transition, but what a analogy.
You know when they fucking and that thing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So go get your Roman swipe. Swipe your lightsaber up, dap that thing up. They're effective, easy to use, and fast acting, but they don't require prescription. They're discreet, unmarked packaging, and they're small enough to fit in your wallet, so they're there for whenever you need it. All you got to do is go to GetRoman.com/walk, and you can get your first month of swipes for just $5 when you choose a monthly plan. That's GetRoman.com/walk. Go get your Roman swipes. You got nothing to lose, everything to gain. Okay, the nerd draft can be kicked off here with Robbie Fox. You're on the clock.
All right, so I'm pivoting here. My original first pick, when I thought this draft was nerdy shit, I was going to take Comic-Con. I was going to be like, that is the epitome of nerd culture, this, that, the next thing. I had some other things listed. Now that we're not using these, I think that some of them are funny. I was going to draft sports goggles. I was going to draft getting the perfect attendance award, having exotic animals such as ferrets or snakes as pets.
Big
nerd
stuff.
I went deep into the nerd stuff, right?
He would've mopped the floor
Letting
with
you
us.
copy homework, being too afraid to let you copy homework, shit like that. But I'm going to pivot here, and I'm going to pick the man who has made nerdom cool for mainstream culture. I'm going to pick none other than the late, great Stan Lee. This is the guy who invented so much of what we know about nerd culture today. You look at Comic-Con, which is going to be my first pick, and you look at how much of it is predicated around superhero movies nowadays. You look at Avengers Endgame, it became the #1 grossing movie of all time. That rat fuck James Cameron re-released Avatar in China and overtook that. It's fine. We're going to get that back one day. Stan Lee is the man behind so much of it, though. He invented Spider-Man. He invented half of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, basically, with Jack Kirby. Passed away a few years ago, a tragic loss for the nerd community. And he was a guy up until the very end who was celebrating nerds, who was standing up for, standing up against bullies and making appearances at Comic-Cons until he was in his 90s, just to meet fans and hear what the stuff that he invented meant to them and what it meant to so many. So Stan Lee will be my #1 nerd in the nerd draft.
Robbie, I have a question for you. How old were you when you were like, this is my bag? Like, this is what I'm into? Was it just like you were 4 years old? Because I remember I was like a big Ninja Turtle guy, and then I like got away from that. So how old were you when you became the way that you are?
I feel like I just it was always sort of the way I was, because I grew up with an older brother 12 years older than me, who definitely was pretty nerdy, like a huge Batman fan, a huge superhero fan. So I was also like born in 98, so superhero movies were really starting to like kick off and become great. So he would just take me to the movies all the time. I had all his old action figures. I had all his old comic books. And yeah, I never shied away from it. Even when people were like, you know what, that stuff's lame, I'm going to go get chicks now. I was like,
fuck chicks.
Fuck chicks.
I mean, listen.
Princess Leia is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Hey, do you have a favorite Stan Lee appearance in any of the MCU movies?
Ooh, that's a great question. I really like the Thor Ragnarok one where he like goes to cut Thor's hair and Thor like is screaming in agony. I also like when he appears as the Watcher and they sort of like confirm the fan theory that he was the same person throughout all of them, like just making sure he appeared. I also like in Endgame, he plays like a guy from New Jersey. He's got a New Jersey license plate and he's, in old Stan Lee attire. He looks like vintage Stan Lee. So that made me smile. I like all those.
If you're drafting nerds and you take the king of the nerds, it's probably a good first overall pick.
Yeah.
Good for, yep.
He's the king.
That's why it was cool pivoting. It's like there was such a clear, oh, there it is. It's Stan Lee in my mind, yeah.
I thought you were going to go with someone else, but Stan Lee is so obvious.
Stan Lee's like a cool nerd, though. Are we done with Stan Lee?
I mean, we're not gonna be like ripping on these nerds, are we? Who's a bad nerd to you, Dave?
I got one that I don't particularly.
Are we gonna be doing some bullying on this podcast?
I'm not gonna bully him. I'm a little too old to bully. Unless
I think
it's Danny.
you probably enjoy it. Yeah, we enjoy bullying.
Yeah.
Impressive of you.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
You're on the clock, man.
You're
all
on
right,
the clock.
I am officially on the clock, and I don't think there's a bigger nerd on the planet right now than Darren Ravel. Darren Ravel just is the quintessential nerd. He's a fucking theater major, magna cum laude. I got his Wikipedia up right now at Northwestern University. He can't fucking say anything on Twitter, and I'm blocked, mind you, without relating it to like, oh, the value of this is X over Y. Like, he stinks. I can't stand this guy. Nobody can stand this guy. He's kind of an asshole. He doesn't wear his like nerdiness on his sleeve to like make him a cool nerd. He's just a bad nerd. This guy fucking stinks. He is the biggest nerd on the planet as we speak now that Stan Lee is gone, rest in peace. I thought that was, like, I was praying to God I got number 1 so I could draft him. So I'm glad you went with Stan Lee because I really, really, really wanted Darren Ravel.
Listen, I appreciated everything you said about Ravel there, and I appreciated the rest in peace.
Stan Lee is, he's a legend. He's a legend.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Darren Ravel's he's like the perfect nerd you just want to stuff in a locker.
Dude, exactly. Like there's two categories of nerds. Like there's the nerds you respect the fuck out of, and then there's the nerds that you actually want to bully and stuff in a locker.
We can still pick on Darren Ravel, right? He's huge. He's like a big time name. It's not we're not going to look people are going to look down on us for like ripping
birthday
on him, right?
party for getting 1 million followers on Twitter. Do you remember that?
Well,
It's a big achievement.
It's
a really big deal,
But he
Dave.
threw a fucking birthday cake for himself.
I'm just.
Hey, we used to get birthday cakes for anyone that hit 100,000 in the office. Me and Roan would go down the street to Baskin Robbins, get him a birthday cake.
Oh, that's nice of you guys.
That is
But he
actually
did it
really
for himself.
nice.
Like Ron's not buying that for himself.
Yeah, no, you know,
And like
do it for
and
himself.
like
That's
doing a
lame.
fucking
That's
periscope
dirty,
on
yeah.
it.
No, it's lame. Listen, I'm not defending Ravel. What the fuck does he know about fighting? As my
There you go.
main
And
man,
and not even like nerds can be somewhat athletic here and there, but like he waddles like a duck when he runs. He's just there's nothing not nerdy about him. You've seen the video. He ran a 40-yard
Yeah, I know,
dash.
but
and
like
was
this
I think everybody was ready to be like, all right,
He
kind of
even runs
defend
like a
whichever nerd Dave was about to ambush here. But as soon as they found out it was Ravel, nobody's running in the ring to defend.
No.
Nobody.
No.
So actually, great pick, Whitesoxdave.
It is a great pick.
Great pick.
He's the biggest nerd.
Very.
on the planet.
I'm impressed. to be
Thank you.
I
honest.
like that it kicked the door open too, like he said, of the different kinds of nerds. We've
Yep.
got cool nerds, we've got nerds you want to stuff in lockers. I'm sure we'll get into fictional ones at some point. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I feel like everybody just disavows Ravel.
There was a point where I was like coming around on him, like this is so preposterous that I'm interested, and I think it's funny. But he's kind of made a different turn recently. I feel. But nevertheless, Carl, you're up.
So I think there's a lot of depth in these different categories, fiction-wise, and Stan Lee, obviously, rest in peace. Darren Ravel's a unique one. I'm going to take the biggest sports nerd, I think. I'm going to take Bill James.
Oh,
Bill
that's a good one.
James basically revolutionized the way you think, not just about baseball, but like sports. Like what the NBA does now is kind of enabled by the fact that like they were doing it in baseball, advanced statistics, you see all the success. Like the idea that you can look at these undervalued players and all this shit. Like it's Bill fucking James. Now, whether or not this plays on the graphic, I don't give a fuck. To me, I think he's the #1 sports nerd, and every nerd that follows in the sports category, anybody
He's
in the
the
sports
Stan
world,
Lee of
like,
sports nerds.
Yeah, he's the fucking king of the sports nerds.
Now, is he a good nerd or a bad nerd though?
I don't know enough about him, like
mean,
personality wise,
I don't know.
but he is the biggest nerd in sports. He
No, I
invented
know,
being
but
a
I'm
nerd in
saying,
sports.
I guess it's subjective to who it is. To me, the founder of Sabermetrics, I kind of don't like him. He kind of ruined baseball for me.
He
That's a
did
fair
kind of
point.
ruin baseball for you, didn't he?
Yeah.
He's kind of an evil. It's almost like how any movie, right, with robots, androids, and artificial intelligence, they become evil. And it's
yeah.
like Bill James is basically, he did that. Like he weaponized and roboticized. That's not a word.
Yeah. There's no small ball anymore.
Theo Epstein did a study, and apparently fans said an overwhelming response that they would much rather see doubles, triples, and stolen bases than home
more
runs
exciting.
and all this stuff. So he's on the forefront of trying to bring the game back to being popular because it's not.
Bill James.
Bill James.
Get rid of the infield shift.
Taking
too.
Bill James in the first round. I think I get some other chalky nerds second, third round here. Looking at my
I don't
board,
think
but I don't
enough
think I can
people-
find Bill James elsewhere in this draft.
Can I ask another clarification?
Yeah.
So we're not taking like groups of like non-specific groups of people. Then we have to take individual.
Yeah, I think
people.
we're
like
at
you
that
can't
point.
draft
Individuals.
professors.
Can't
Like
take
Harvard
Theoretically.
professors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would you have taken Bill James? Because I guess you were the only one who would have been in danger of
I did that. I think it's a great pick. I did not have him on my list. I didn't even think of putting him on there. But once you said his name, I was like, that's a great pick.
I'm gonna have a diverse list here.
He,
right.
I mean, if you follow baseball like Carl and I do, he's the nerd. He's the nerd. He's not a nerd. He's the nerd.
He's the king of the sports nerds. The
Yeah.
same way Stanley is king of
Exactly.
the.
Yeah,
And he
exactly.
invented analytics, and now every sport does analytics. But
Exactly.
It started with
it
him
snowballed
in baseball.
into other.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bill James off the board. Chief, you're on the clock.
All right. I'm going with a fictional one. I'm taking Jim Levinston from American
Yep.
Pie. So a guy like a very relatable thing. Everyone just trying to lose their virginity. He was like a huge nerd. Was always out kicking his coverage. He ended up settling with the nerd, which I thought that was like that was a good thing too. And but he's just like a lovable coming of age kind of character nerd, where maybe he doesn't even really fully understand that he's a nerd. But he like that to me, like I'm that guy.
He
Like,
wears
that's-
he wears the dress shirt that's it's got sleeve, or it's like a t-shirt dress shirt.
Yeah.
With the tie like around the house. You know.
Are we talking about the same guy?
Yes, the American Pie.
Yeah,
Dude.
yeah,
Yeah, with the
yeah.
big eyebrows.
No, that's the dad. I'm talking about the
That's
son.
Eugene.
Oh, the son.
Yeah,
Oh.
Jim, who's trying to fuck Nadia.
kidding
And
me?
yeah, come on.
We're talking about
He is a
James
nerd.
Emmanuel Levinson.
Right.
now.
Talking
Yeah.
about a first round nerd pick
Yeah.
here, Dave.
Yeah.
My mistake.
Okay. All right. But I do love that character as well.
Yeah, he's
Interesting. There's multiple characters in that trilogy. I call it a trilogy.
Yeah.
Because only the first three are worth a shit.
Yeah.
That could have been picked too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think he's the main character.
I
Like,
love.
they're- Yeah.
I love it so much that I love. Great pick. I
Okay.
love Jim
All right.
Levinson.
Jim
Little
Levinson.
high for Jim Levinson.
You think so?
Yes.
So like
I
that
think
to
so.
Because
me,
the guy I'm about to take, and listen, American Pie.
that's
is
what I
like
mean. It's such
a
like
top 5 like movie. To
it's
me.
a huge that to me, like when I think of like movies from my
Yeah.
childhood,
Oh, yeah,
my
all of
high
us.
school, it
Yeah.
is that's the movie.
Yeah.
And like that, like I feel like I learned things about girls from that
1000%.
movie. Like that was like it's an
American
educational
Pie
film.
2 when they do the cup scene with the boys at the
Yup.
party. That was fucking. That was formative.
Sean
Yeah.
William Scott
That was-
Stifler drinks some
Right.
jizz.
Yeah, that like you
And-
learned about really
right.
the meaning of buddies
Yeah.
in that movie. Yes,
Right.
1000%.
Do you
Yeah.
call
It's-
it jizz?
Yeah, I got a buddy named Jizz. We that's our generation's Animal House.
How did every time?
He's got a buddy named Jizz, Robbie.
You guys met Jizz.
I've never met Jizz.
Those two did.
Hey, how about
That's
this?
actually one of my
Hey,
still.
nerd draft, nerd fact. In Star Wars, jazz is called jizz.
Oh, there you go.
Like the Cantina band.
Oh, really?
That's called jizz music.
No way.
Yep.
That is a good fact.
Nerd fact. Thank you for the.
Yeah.
Keep dishing those out. We're here for 'em.
Hell yeah.
Thank you, Robbie.
So, all right, Jim Levinson off the board. I'm up, and this is where I'm gonna have to take, I guess, someone who I think is, and it hurts because I love Jim, but in the same vein, you got to go McLovin. McLovin was like one of the OGs when it came to being, and he's got a redemption arc. He's got the name. He's got the look.
He's the only one that gets laid, right? Doesn't he kind of get laid in the
He does.
cop
The
walks in?
redhead, the
Yeah.
redhead girl.
Yeah.
Wait, what did she say? McLovin, were you getting laid? The cop.
So I was actually between those two.
Were you?
Yeah,
Okay.
but like the Jim Levinson character means more to me.
Me
Like,
too, but-
So that's why I went with him. But that's still a great fictional nerd pick.
And I mean, I'm sure you guys never had to deal with this, but as a guy with my build, as a guy with glasses, it's the only pick on the list so far that has been used as an insult against me. Yo, McLovin! You know?
Someone said that to you before?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, multiple times. Yeah. You crazy?
McLovin is an all-time character.
Definitely is. What was his fake ID name? What was the first name? Or it was like I was between McLovin and Muhammad.
He's like, where'd you get my? He's like, this is the most common name on earth, you fucking idiot.
Shit.
He wears the Aladdin vest.
Yeah, yeah. Great pick. Great pick, McLovin.
So McLovin will be my first rounder. My second rounder, you know what? This is another kind of chalky play. It's a real person, but he deserves to go high because if you're casting a nerd for a movie role, an awkward person, you got to go Michael Cera. And so I'm taking his not. I'm not.
You're taking the actor.
I'm taking the actor.
Yep.
Okay.
So it's a little bit of a difference there.
He does look like a nerd.
Yeah, he might, but like that's what he's always casted as.
Yeah.
He got laid in that one movie with where he knocked the chick up in high school.
Juno.
Yeah, that's actually a great movie.
It's a very good movie.
Very
Juno's
good
a good
movie.
Really, really good movie.
Yeah, but Robbie, come on, Michael Cera's the guy. When they're
Definitely.
yeah,
I mean, look at Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Perfect example of a comic book movie where he plays the prototypical nerd. And even like when he gets the girl, he has to go through all the ex-boyfriends because that is the nerd trope of like, you fear that shit. So yeah, he's a perfect pick. And even look at This Is the End. They put him in the opposite of that role because he is the nerd.
yeah. When like movie execs are at a boardroom, they're like, all right, we need the big funny guy. We need Jonah Hill. We need Seth Rogen. You know, when they say we need the nerd, they say Michael Cera
Yeah.
every time.
Yep.
So he's my
I
second
like this
rounder.
draft. We're celebrating nerds right here. This is good stuff. I mean, fuck Ravel, except for him.
Yeah,
but
he's the only one that everybody hates.
Yeah.
Yes, all right. I'll take Michael Cera. Chief, you're up again.
All right. So when I was asking before if we're gonna have groups of people, like I wanted to take sports journalists because I've never come across a cool sports journalist. They're all nerds. But if we're doing individual people, obviously Dave took Ravel, put us on that track. I was also going to take fantasy football nerds because I can't stand fantasy football nerds. I'm kind of out on fantasy football. Like I don't care about how many teams you have, what wide receiver. I just don't care. So I'm going to take the king of fantasy sports nerds, which is Matthew Berry. And Matthew Berry is a huge nerd. He's not as obnoxious, in my opinion, as Ravel, but he's close. And I've never been a Matthew Berry guy, and I don't like fantasy football in general anymore. So I'm out on Matthew Berry, but he is king of the nerds. I don't dislike him, but he is a nerd.
I don't think he was the nerdiest person you could have taken there,
Really? For fantasy football?
or just in general when it comes to like
Honestly,
on-air personalities.
I know who he is, and I can kind of picture his face, I think. But other than that, I don't know anything about him, so I'm going to say it's a kind of pick.
But see, I do know stuff about him too. Like he goes on Stern all the time. He's always in the joke. He gets a little dirty. So I guess he's not like as much as like.
But he is. Like he is.
I mean,
he's trying to defend it now. If that's the case, then I'm going to be like, that's a bad pick.
I don't know anything about
Like
him.
if you
Never
can
heard
tell
the
a
name
dirty
before.
joke and like hang with Stern. Is it like a cringeworthy hang with Stern? Is he trying too hard to hang with them, or can he actually pull it
No,
off?
he hangs. He hangs for sure.
But I've seen him on so many things where it's just like, dude, like you're a nerd. Like I don't know. I'm fine with Matthew Berry in that spot. You think Matthew Berry's not a nerd? He's definitely a nerd.
He's definitely a nerd.
His profession and on his show, yes, like that's what fantasy football guys are nerds.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Correct.
Yeah. So
Correct.
if I'm taking fantasy football guys, and he's the guy. He's the guy.
Hold on, let me look up this guy's name because he might not be the guy.
Well, if you have to look up his name, like Matthew
Well,
Berry.
This guy is the guy. But never mind. We're not
That's a
trying to
cartoon
name
like
picks.
Avatar.
Sorry. So whatever. Matthew Berry's off the board. Anybody else have anything on him?
Getting nervous for my pick.
All right, you're up.
Well, I'm nervous. I mean, this draft's competitive. This is a good, deep draft. McLovin's a great fictional character. I still have my number one fictional nerd on the board. I'm going Steve Urkel.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Steve Urkel, basically, Family Matters. I don't know, just Steve Urkel and the
The
suspenders.
thick-ass
What do we have to
glasses,
fucking
the
say?
suspenders.
Steve Urkel's like
Did I do that?
Yeah, the
a,
nerdy
just
voice.
like the name Urkel, like how
Yeah.
because
That is a nerd name.
McLovin kind of stands alone as a nerd name, but like, come on, Urkel, like that was like a big deal
Oh,
in the
big
90s
time.
Yeah,
and stuff.
bro,
Like,
for sure.
come on, Urkel. So
But he
I want
was
Steve
also
Urkel.
the duality of man was also Stefan. And Stefan
Yeah, he was
was
great.
arguably like the coolest guy
Yeah.
of all time.
That's what
Great pick.
when you're talking nerd. Like,
Thanks,
if,
Rob.
if you're really breaking shit down, you're right. If you became such a big nerd and known for being a nerd that you were, that was the way it was called. It was like Kleenex and tissue.
Yeah.
That's big.
Yeah.
And Urkel transcended.
He definitely did. Yep.
White Sox, Dave, you're up again.
I'm not gonna dip into the fictional characters quite yet, but because I know I'll be able to get him later. I'm gonna go with, and this isn't. I'm gonna stick with the douchebag, fuckwad, asshole nerds. I gotta go with Mark Zuckerberg. What a fucking cunt that guy
It's a
is.
great pick, Dave.
Great
What
pick.
a
That's a
fucking
very good
and
pick.
It's Hollywoodified. I'll call it. The Social Network, the movie, great, fantastic fucking
you seen
movie.
it?
A million times. I love it.
Awesome.
It's an incredible movie.
Is that a joke?
So, who's the actor that plays him? Why am I blanking on his name?
Jesse Eisenberg.
Jesse
Jesse
Eisenberg.
Eisenberg.
Like, I don't know how.
I get him
actually
and Michael
true-
Cera confused.
They are very similar. Yes.
Yeah, he'd
I don't
be a
know
good
how
nerd.
true to his actual personality he plays in the movie, but like he is such a fucking nerd. Mm-hmm. Like he
Yeah.
like riding elephants in fucking Thailand and shit.
What is nerdy about
writing
elephants?
equation? I mean, actually, it is kind of cool now I think about it.
Yeah.
But
Well, what about that video of him talking about barbecue where he looks like a robot?
Oh man, that's one of the worst videos on the internet.
The meme where
Smoking meats.
It's become a meme where he's doing the surfing and he's just got the suntan lotion like caked on his face. He looks like a mime.
Yeah.
That picture's
I did
crazy.
do that. I did that with Donnie.
Damn,
he like
Dave,
wrote the
too?
fucking the what is it called? Algorithm on the Harvard dorm. He went to Harvard. That's a nerdy thing in and of itself.
Shot at Riggs.
Yeah, I mean Riggs is a nerd. But yeah, it's Mark Zuckerberg. He's on the same
impressed,
in
Dave.
the same ballpark
good
as
draft so
fucking.
far.
Yeah, Dave, you're impressing me today.
Well, this is like right in Dave's wheelhouse
got
because
it.
he is a bully. Like you asked him to do nerds, he
I'm
may
not a
not
bully.
be like the
I'm not a
nerd.
bully.
I know you're not a bully. You're not a bully.
I
Dave's
stuck
not
up
a
for the
bully.
nerds.
But in the same vein, Dave is the guy who would be like, "Yo, I do want to talk to you about that high school baseball game. I do want to talk to you about my JV high school football team." So it is kind of
I never
like
played JV. I only played varsity. teams.
Zuckerberg's off the board. Robbie, back to you, and I'll be stunned if this guy gets out from here too. But
I think you're going to be stunned. I'm going to go 2 fictional characters.
Ooh, I'm stunned.
While we've been sitting here, I've been writing down people because I'm doing this on the fly as we've been talking about. And I'm going to take back-to-back fictional characters here. First one, Ned Flanders.
Oh, that's good.
Great pick.
From The Simpsons.
Yep.
Yeah, he was the first one that came to mind after I drafted Stanley, and I feel like he's just
There's a few
epitome
in The Simpsons
of a
you
nerd
could
Stanley
gamer.
has a
There
Simpsons
really are,
appearance. Yeah.
The Simpsons have a few perfect ones. Shout out to Coley. I know he'll love that pick. Shout out to Clem. He'll probably also love that pick. And then with my second nerd, I thought that Carl was going to take this when he took Urkel. I'm going to take Dwight Schrute from The Office.
Never got into it.
Yep.
I'm going to go.
But I know how nerdy he is.
It's one of the most preposterous.
I know. It's just one of those things. I just haven't really.
If you're like one of like
Only the most
3
famous
people.
show ever.
I know. I know. It's just one of those things.
it's
I
also
like it
no
when I've seen it,
hesitation in the commentary.
but
Never
it goes
got
to
into
show
it. I
how
was
big of a
perfect.
nerd that Dwight Schrute is. That even I, someone who's maybe seen 10, 12 episodes ever,
Yeah.
knows that he's a fucking massive nerd.
Yeah, I mean the Beat Farm, identity theft, everything about Dwight Schrute.
Well,
like you said, the cutoff shirts,
When he
everything
wa-
about him.
when
Love
he
Dwight Schrute.
when he was the volunteer sheriff for the drug bust in the parking lot, like that was just like, oh, that's so perfect. It's so
Perfect.
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, I
a
fully
perfect,
recognize.
a perfect television character.
Yes.
Can we shine more light on Flanders though? That was a great pick.
Flanders is great too.
Especially because if you
he's-
stay in that universe, you could have went someone else as well. But you know,
There's
that's
2 of them.
I, there actually were.
There's 3 total. I
I would
think.
say there was 2 that came to mind other than Flanders in the Simpsons universe. That I'm not going to say. I know it's you're not supposed to do that in the dog walk. But yeah, Flanders is just look at the like. Hey, howdy ho, neighbor, diddly do. Diddly
It actually sounded like him.
like just that voice that's a nerd. The sweaters with the collar on the outside, Homer's rivalry with him, even the Simpsons movie, which is pretty underrated.
It is
Flanders
underrated.
has a huge role in that, in like taking Bart under his wing, and then he becomes so almost hateable, even as a good father, because you're like, this guy's so fucking nerd. Go fucking fall off the roof with your dad, Bart. Like, what are you doing over here with Flanders? Like the church stuff. No offense to the church, the dog walk, many priests on. I know we this is
At least one. I am
Yeah,
also an
but
ordained
just-
minister, so
Oh, I am too. Actually,
Yeah.
I forget all the time, but I
Yeah.
did that one night. I got a little too high on the 3 cheap promo code MMB, ordained minister, like that.
Or Redline Radio.
But
Chicago. Our promo code is Chicago.
Chicago.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ned Flanders is the perfect cartoon pick. I also thought about different cartoons. I thought in the South Park universe and the Family Guy universe really quickly, but I felt like Ned Flanders is the one that basically all of them have hints of in them.
So the thing about Flanders though is he elicits a lot of shame from Homer's perspective because Homer's such like the deadbeat loser who like everything's always going wrong for him, and then every time they cut to Flanders, like it's always going right for him in that
Perfect
exact
foil.
respect. So it is. He's like a nerdy, but he's like a good villain almost, like to respect. Where like you're looking through Homer's lens, you feel I
Right.
feel bad
Stupid,
for Homer.
sexy
I don't know.
Flanders.
Yeah.
Like everything goes well for Flanders.
Right. Well, his business almost failed. Homer saved that.
Yeah.
His house burned down. Homer saved him with that. So
No,
he's a great character.
Yes,
He's a great character. That's a great pick.
Gotta
It's a great
give him the
pick.
redemption,
Yep.
yeah.
Great pick, Robbie.
And then could we be
Thank you.
honest about Dwight Schrute? He almost fits into Rovell category as well because he's kind of a dick.
he's definitely got his moments where he's a dick. But Jim also, I mean, Jim prods him.
True.
Yeah, I like Dwight.
He's funny.
I
of
find him
course.
very well.
He's
Like
funny,
the
but he's
safety
like-
first guy.
Yep.
Yeah, he's very funny. He's ridiculous.
Oh,
There's
yeah,
a
he's
lot.
absurd.
Well, there's some nerds in that.
Yeah.
It's a Sith Lord. God damn it. Yeah.
All right, so Dwight Schrute's off the board. Whitesoxdave, you're up again.
So I could go with chalk here. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go down my list a little bit to fictional characters, and this is
Chalk's left.
maybe. Yeah, there's definitely. I got one that's definitely chalk. It might get back to me, but I think he might be one of my favorite side ancillary characters in TV history. I'm going with Newman. Newman from Seinfeld. He's a fucking postman. Mm-hmm. He's fat.
He doesn't scream nerd to
Oh,
me.
he is such a nerd. Are you kidding me? He's got the thick ass glasses, that little high squealy voice. He's like a villainous nerd too. He's absolutely hilarious. Which doesn't
He's
have
a great
anything-
character. I mean, I'm
great
not
character.
vetoing, but he doesn't necessarily.
He is such a nerd. He's
Okay.
a fucking postman, and he sits and he's got like
Are postmen
figurines.
nerds? You're talking
mean,
about Big John the mailman here.
And
You call him Big John a
John
nerd?
is not, but it can be a nerdy profession. John's just a cool dude who happens to be a postman.
Okay. I never
But
thought of postman as a
they
nerdy
make fun of him
profession
for
either.
being a nerd the entire series, like all the time. Like he's got the figurines all over his apartment. Like
That's true.
he's just a nerd.
Collectibles. Yeah.
Yeah, collectibles.
Let's not be offensive here.
I'm sorry, Robbie. He actually did take offense to that a little bit.
Well,
I actually had in my nerdy shit referring to toys as collectibles was on my draft board.
God, we're gonna have to
We have
redo
to do
that
it then.
sometime
Yeah.
because now I'm so intrigued by your list, and you would have fucking mopped the floor.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
when he
You
was reading them
probably
off, I
already
was
are.
like, oh fuck.
yeah, we're fucked.
Yeah. Newman, I haven't watched a ton of Seinfeld, so I can't comment.
You missed it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
missed it.
Yeah. Okay.
Carl, you're up.
I'm gonna take a real life person. There's probably better nerds within this guy's own universe, but this is the nerd that stepped out of his universe and then went like completely mainstream. About as mainstream as really I think any big science fiction fucking nerd who wrote books ever really has. I'm taking George R.R. Martin. Like that guy to me is just like the most neglected nerd of all time who cooked up this fucked up world
He
that
stinks.
I don't care.
Finish their books.
Sure.
Yeah.
Isn't he finishing them?
I don't fucking
He's
know.
been working on it for like 15 years.
Is it nerdy to not finish the book? Is it nerdy to like pay attention to it that much that you're like, I
dude.
can't finish?
He's such a nerd that once he got attention on his work, he was just like, I'm just basking in all this attention now. Look, I've spent my entire life cooking up these ideas, and now that you guys like them, you guys can fucking wait.
I actually kind of like that move.
It's a good pick. George R. R. Martin's a good
Yeah,
pick.
Well,
it's-
he ruined
yeah.
the end of the series by not putting
Again,
pen to paper.
we're not drafting
It's a grudge
whatever.
against-
Yeah,
I don't
you
like
got-
him.
Yeah, exactly. This isn't Chief's personal grudge pick. This is a nerd pick, and he's a big nerd.
Definitely is a big nerd. Chicago guy.
George R. R. Martin, third
I
round.
believe he went to Northwestern.
I was in.
He lived in like Uptown for a while
I didn't
too.
know that.
His house was for sale like last year.
Yeah, George R. R. Martin. I mean, he writes fucking these books that are
Yeah,
crazy.
if
Yep.
any Dungeons and Dragons type shit is automatically nerdy, and he's the king of it. So
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's
Yeah.
probably other fucking nerdier guys
Ooh.
that people who follow this stuff would be like, oh, dude, these other
Yeah.
people do way. But the fact that, like, we all know who George
Yeah.
R. R. Martin is, and he came out of that world, and now we're all like, oh, yeah, fucking George R. R. Martin, this shit. Like my father-in-law is a retired firefighter, and he's, like, sitting around reading A Song of Fire and Ice. Like, this is good shit, man. Like, that's being a... That's
being an
Transcendent.
author
Yes.
automatically makes you a nerd.
Transcending nerd.
Thank you.
Robbie, anything on George R. R. Martin?
I was so late to the Thrones train. I caught up on Thrones in between the second to last season and the final season. I was like, oh my god, this shit is so awesome! I can't wait to watch it live with everybody. And then we got the last season, and it was what it
poor
was.
thing.
I tried to stay positive through it all, and then we got to the final episode. It kind of just broke me. Yeah, he's a good pick. I think there's when we were talking about him as like the first person to do the Dungeons and Dragons stuff, there's definitely a key one that came before him that inspired him.
Oh, yeah,
But-
yeah. But he doesn't play on the graphic.
No, he doesn't play on the graphic. George R. R. Martin is the modern one. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Okay.
graphic play will be good for him because that like thick ass beard, the fat face, the glasses, and everything. That's a nerd.
Okay.
All right, Chief, you're up.
All right, I'm going with another George. I'm going with a fictional character. I'm going George McFly. So George
Great pick.
McFly, like if you want to say like close your eyes and what is a nerd, it probably looks a lot like George McFly. And he, same thing. Like I love the redemption arc story. Knocks the bully out at the end with a big,
Biff.
big right hook. Biff, take a seat. Gets the girl. Like it's a happy ending. And yeah, but like he's into the science fiction. He's got the nervous energy. He drinking milk all the time, being a fucking creep pervert, spying on people. Like I don't know if that's necessarily a nerd move, but that was.
He walks
Nerds don't sign off on that. We don't.
They disavow that particular activity. But I'm just trying to think of all the famous George McFly scenes. That was definitely one of them. But even like his backup excuse was like I was bird watching, and no one questioned it because they're like, yeah, you probably would fucking bird watch. And but yeah, I think George McFly is like the quintessential movie nerd, and I love the story. I love it's one of my probably in my top 10 favorite movies up for me. So I'm happy to have George McFly in the third round.
He wrote down like pickup lines when they were at the breakfast diner thing to walk up. What's her name?
You're my density.
Yeah. I meant you're my destiny.
Yeah.
And he's like reading it in front of her. Like,
right.
It's the nerdiest thing of all time.
Yeah.
George McFly. Good pick. He
Great
was on
pick.
my board.
Mm-hmm.
Great pick.
Really good pick. Not the only pick in that universe either.
Yeah. It's true.
Oh, you're right.
You are right.
Okay.
You're right.
You're
right. Hey.
Duh.
You're right. Duh.
All right, so it's back to me. I got 2 picks. Before we do, though, we got a new sponsor, boys. We got Upstart. What do you mean?
What are you grunting about a sponsor?
No. I'm grunting about ad placement here.
What?
Because I didn't know this was a double ad show. Normally, you tell us beforehand.
He did
Before the
say
third
so.
pick. Before the third. I said it out loud.
Did
You did say that we were going to have another. You did say that we have 2 sponsors.
Didn't say it was a new one.
You didn't say it was right before your pick when you're on the clock.
No, listen, I'm not on a new. I sell new sponsors. Let's fucking go, new sponsors.
Would you like to hear about them?
I want to know who our new sponsor is.
Upstart.
Tell me more.
Okay, it's a
Robbie's
financial.
all jacked up.
Let's go.
Yeah, thank you, Robbie.
Upstart.
Thank you, Upstart.
Let's get started on this Upstart ad.
Exactly, Dave. Like we're always talking about, best way to pay off debt, best way to handle your finances. Upstart's here for you. They're a smart way to do this. It's not just, they don't just look at your credit score and it's like, hey, here's what you do or here's what it is. They take a look at your employment history. They look at how much you're making. They look at, they look at a bunch of shit.
Holistic viewpoint of the person they're
Correct.
working with, not just numbers and data. Because a lot of times with this shit, it's just like, oh, you don't meet this certain qualification. They're actually going to dig a little bit deeper than just the name, the social security number.
Exactly.
Love
It's
that.
a fast and it's an easy way to pay off your debt, with the personal loan, and it's all online. So you could find out how Upstart can lower your monthly payments today when you go to upstart.com/Eddie. That's upstart.com/Eddie. Don't forget to use the URL to let them know we sent you. Okay? Use upstart.com/Eddie. Loan amounts will be determined based on your credit, income, and certain other information provided in your loan application. Go to upstart.com/Eddie. Dave, like I said, we really do talk about shit like this all the time. So
all the
it's
time.
great that we have Upstart, a smart partner to kind of help you guys out with this stuff. So go check out Upstart. All right, I'm back on the clock. All right, I'm going to take... We talked about collectibles, and when I think of that, now when I think of like a big wall of collectibles, I got to go with Andy from 40-Year-Old Virgin. And low-key, one of the funniest things, I guess, is like my humor is one of the funniest parts about that movie is just the fact that he carries his wheel with him.
Yeah.
From his bike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He just nuts, just takes that off every day.
He doesn't have a license. He tucks his pants into his socks for the bike.
Yeah, exactly. And
He makes egg salad.
Is it more of a dork, though?
No, I think they're interchangeable.
What do you? What's the difference, Robbie? That's
So
honestly where I.
There's people sometimes say a nerd and a geek are 2 different things. I think a dork you can kind of use loosely. You could kind of use with any of them. And I think a nerd would be someone like All Biz Pete, and a geek would be someone like me. I think people would say that's the distinction there, but I mean, I think they're all kind of in the same. If a hot chick looks at you from across the street, she's like geek, nerd, dork.
So I think it was on PMT where McConaughey drove. He kind of defined it, right? Was that on PMT?
Not positive.
Where he's like, I love nerds. He's like, I hate dorks. And he's like, I know a lot of like some of the nerds I know are the best people I know, because it sounded like the way he described it was like it's Robbie. Like Robbie's just like he's like a cool guy who's just like he's just into what he's into, and it's like nerdy. Where dorks are like kind of like
They're unintentionally.
They're like, hey, didn't we have homework last night?
yeah, something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Or dorks think they're cool, but they're not.
Right. Like Jim Levinson is more of like
Like a Ravel.
dork. Yes, yeah, or like a Ravel, yeah. So
But regardless, I think Andy fits into the nerd category.
Oh yeah, it definitely does.
I think he fits. I
Yeah,
think
definitely.
he fits into this draft. Yeah, that's a good pick. I didn't think of him, but when you said the wall of collectibles, of course.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, something about him carrying that fucking wheel makes me laugh every time I see it. Would you ever do that, Carl, with your bike?
No, dude.
That's
Get
so
outta
much
here. That's
fucking
why you
work.
buy a used shitty bike, man. That's why I drive. That's why I ride a $200 used
so
track.
funny, just him walking through that fucking Radio Shack looking fucking place
Like a
with,
Best
with a wheel. It just makes me laugh.
The
every
whole
time.
like balloon sand scene when they're playing poker.
Yeah.
He's drinking a Coke instead of drinking beer or whatever he's drinking.
Exactly. So that's my third rounder is going to be Andy from 4-Year-Old Virgin.
Real quick. One of the best fucking scenes in movie history is when they're at the bar towards the end of the movie and they're ripping shots and they're just like force feeding him. And he leans his head back and goes, I need some poo. It's so fucking funny.
It's a funny movie. It's a funny movie.
I think it's one of the best comedies of the last like 20 years. Maybe the best.
Really-
It's so
it's
fucking
really good.
funny.
It's
Yeah.
very good. All right, I need one more. So my fourth round pick, I'm gonna go with a nerd who I think is for my money is the best nerd name. So I'm going with a TV show. I'm going with fucking Minkus from Boy
God
Meets World.
damn it,
ooh,
dude.
very, very good
That
one.
was my fifth round.
Was
Locked it? Make us. Nobody's even gonna know this.
Mink,
I love Minkus.
I never watched the show. I don't have any clue who he is, so I don't got anything to say.
Never got into it, as Dave said.
Might hurt you. It might hurt you a little bit because
you think?
Boy Meets World is so
I don't know.
so far out.
But Minkus,
But
come on.
it's the best, dude. He's the best. He's up there with Urkel for 90s nerds. He's my number 2 90s nerd, where Urkel, like, obviously was the star of the show, but Minkus was behind the scenes nerd.
Minkus was big time. Fucking Corey Matthews, Sean Hunter. That was
Yeah.
he needed him. Mr.
If you
Feeney.
aren't familiar with Minkus, if the show predates you, I would encourage Google imaging a picture of Minkus. You don't even need to hear the kid talk. You just know he's the perfect elementary school foil nerd.
You really and I love that name, Minkus.
Oh, it definitely adds to it.
Yes.
Yeah. Like
Minkus.
he couldn't be named like Jim Smith.
Yeah.
He's
has to be
a
a
Mink.
Minkus.
He's a
Shut
Minkus.
up, Minkus.
Yeah.
So I'm pumped to get Minkus on my board, especially because
Oh, this is Mouth from One Tree Hill.
is it?
I've never seen
Yeah.
One Tree Hill.
I've never seen
Oh, I
it
never
either.
got into that either. Mouth from One Tree Hill.
Is One Tree Hill the
Yeah.
Superman show?
No, that's Smallville. One
Okay.
Tree Hill was more of like just a high school drama show.
Okay.
Stuart Minkus.
Stewart.
I'm happy I grabbed him here then. If you were going to take him,
I was. You were not going to get Minkus.
great. I'm glad I got Minkus. Minkus was important to me. He really was. So Minkus is my pick. Chief, you're up.
I'll go with a horny pick. I'm taking Lainey from what's the name of that movie?
Laney Boggs?
Laney Boggs from with her and Freddie Prinze.
She's all that. I'll help you out.
Yeah, she's all that. Where they take the glasses off, and it's like, oh, she's actually a hot girl all along. But she was a big nerd in the show. But yeah, so if someone needs to have a horny pick, I'll be the horny guy for this episode. But I'm taking Laney Boggs, and like that's another like motif that's just out there, like the girl who's like hiding in plain sight, and she's a big nerd and she doesn't get a lot of attention, and then she has like a ugly duckling type of story, and she's just super hot. So,
Criminally underrated movie.
big time
I
underrated.
love that
yeah,
movie.
it's a great movie.
Love that movie. Never seen it, Dave?
I have not in forever though.
Yeah.
I do know who you're talking about.
Doesn't OAR have a song in that movie?
Do they? I just talked to Mark
I think
last
they
week.
may.
It might.
Yeah.
Mark Roberge.
Yep.
I know. Yeah, I know there was
Awesome
one of
fucking
those
dude.
early movies where they had a song in it, and it was like huge for their career back then.
Laney Boggs, and then she turns into a bad bitch. So,
Yeah.
she's a painter at heart.
Yep.
I like the pick. I love that movie. Carl, you're up.
There's still some chalk here on the board here, fellas. I think I'm just gonna put some pressure. I think I'm gonna put some pressure on Robbie's list here, and I'm gonna take the biggest fucking nerd of all time. I'm gonna take Einstein.
Yeah, I mean that I had those guys. I just took them off. Obviously, I mean he invented fucking nuclear war.
I don't know enough about Einstein to say that he was definitively a nerd.
I mean, look at the guy. That he reeks nerd.
Wait, what?
Well, I mean, he invented what was it?
I don't
theory
think
of
That's like the
relativity?
biggest hard comment.
I don't
you've
think
ever
being
said
a
on show.
genius makes you a nerd.
I think it.
I don't
it's
know
a
how he
big
lived his life.
precursor to an extent. He's a fucking
Bro,
a rocket
he's the
scientist.
E equals MC squared guy. He's
That's-
the nerd.
Is that the
He just
theory
sounds
of
like a
relativity?
smart guy. I wouldn't put people in a box like that. I don't judge them based upon how smart they are. They have to be a nerd. I don't know. He might have been cool.
I think when you get to a certain level of intelligence, you shoot through that ceiling
Yes.
and you're just a nerd for life.
Yes, absolutely.
Like I said, if I had a witty, creative,
I know
like Eddie
that-
took my
right.
good creative pick that I thought was fictional. I'm trying to get balance here between fictional and real, and I mean it's Einstein. Like if you could take Einstein in the 4th round, you take Einstein in the 4th round of me. So
He certainly qualifies. Albert Einstein. Take it easy. I appreciate ones where you could, where it's an insult, but at the same time, it's
Like you
let's
got nothing
call
but
Einstein.
yeah, I mean he's like,
Yeah.
I mean, the whole world would be different if it wasn't for his level of nerdiness. Like we'd all be speaking fucking Japanese or German right now, maybe. You know?
No.
No, we wouldn't be. But I mean, we wouldn't have won the war, maybe.
I don't know if that's true.
No, I mean, it was pretty well over at that point. You know that.
Yeah. I mean, that was the linchpin for sure.
All right.
But
That was the Gronk spike on the war.
yeah.
White Sox Dave, you're up, pal.
Like there's obviously more names just like that, but I'm gonna veer away from those right now because I don't know, they're kind of boring, which is fine. But I mean, they're obviously nerds. I'm gonna go with the Simpsons character. I'm going with Milhouse.
Ooh, okay.
He is so Flanders I think was a good pick. I think that Milhouse is the better pick because he is bullied. You got Nelson Muntz caving his face in, doing the little eye wiggle, thinking that he has a crush on him. He wears flood pants. He has the fucking voice. He sleeps in a fucking race car bed. He is
That's
the biggest
kinda
nerd in
cool.
the show. Actually, no, it is kind of cool, but it's nerdy at the same time.
yeah.
He's
Depends on how old you are.
and his name is Milhouse. That's the nerdiest name ever. That's up
It's
there
a
with
nerdy name.
Minkus.
Yeah, no, it fits.
Yeah,
Milhouse
so,
is good. It's a good pick as well. That's something people, if you were a dick, you would say that. You would call someone that.
I mean,
Milhouse.
so
Milhouse,
like the
yeah.
whole high school, middle school stigma is that the bullies pick on the nerds. In The Simpsons, he's the nerd getting picked on by the bullies.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
There's another nerd.
Well, I know
There
there
is
is.
another
There's
one.
two.
Another one,
There's two
yeah.
of them,
And
but I think
his role is to take the beatings.
he does, and it's hilarious. There's they're passing out Valentines, and Lisa is handing one to Nelson, but it's Milhouse that hands him the thing, and he reads it, and he
That's
goes,
not the nerd I'm
"Someone
thinking
likes
of.
you." And he turns around, and Milhouse is doing the eye wiggle. The very next scene, he's in a stretcher, getting pulled off into a hospital because Nelson just beat the shit out of him.
So I would say Ralphie's a dork, Martin's a nerd, but we can have that conversation.
Ralphie is like special.
I would assume there are
Yeah.
no more. Sorry, we don't do this, but
Yeah.
there's no more Simpsons picks coming.
Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
we're
I-
almost
there is
good.
one.
We could talk.
Yeah.
no,
I think
there are.
absolutely.
There's several other. I would be surprised if someone else put a Simpsons
right.
character on there.
So
I-
Milhouse,
Van
it's in
Nostrand.
consideration.
Milhouse.
Yes.
Milhouse is off the board. Robbie Fox, you're up.
So I go back to back again for my final 2 picks here, correct?
Correct.
So I have written down, left on my draft board, 2 real people and 2 fictional characters. And it's going to be really hard for me not to take these fictional characters, but I think I'm going to go back-to-back real people. I think one that a lot of people expected me to pick, that I have to pick, it's George Lucas.
Yeah.
Without George Lucas, I mean, am I even a nerd? Who the hell knows? If Star Wars doesn't exist, do I
nerds
even
exist in
veer
general.
off from this stuff? Yeah, so I have to pick George Lucas. This guy created a world that I think about every single day and have thought about every single day of my life. Like, it's the first thing I think about when I wake up. It's the last thing I think about when I go to bed. I saw the last couple Star Wars movies. I saw the first one in theaters 6 times, the next one in theaters 7 times, the next one in theaters, 4 times, just because I can't get enough. You give me Star Wars, I don't care if it's good, bad, ugly, I'll take it and I'll love it.
Do you have a favorite?
So I gotta pick, Empire Strikes Back. back. It's my favorite movie of all time. I think it's just a flawless movie in every way. The original trilogy is really where the meat and potatoes of all of it is. But Star Wars Celebration is my favorite place in the entire world because you're just surrounded by fellow nerds, just as nerdy as you. You don't know what you're going to see. You see stormtroopers walking past you, but they all have Muppet heads on, and you're like, what a creative costume. I've got to take George Lucas, and then I'm going to follow it up with a pick of someone that we all actually know, and I want to let everyone know this is a pick out of love. When you look at my list, I've got Stan Lee on there. I've got George Lucas on there. And my fifth and final pick is going to be Jeff D. Lowe.
I love it.
Nerd.
I love it.
Listen.
He is an unbelievable nerd.
He is such a
love
awesome.
Jeff,
Yes.
and I have been lucky enough to spend a lot of time with Jeff over the past few years, and he is my kind of nerd. He's got the collectibles all over his walls. I'm sure you guys have seen it. The Star Wars collectibles. He's got a couple Emmys. He's a legend with Photoshop. He's a legend with production and editing. So he's got a little bit of the tech nerd side as well. He watches those Apple news conferences when that guy Tim Cook is like, here's the new camera. He live tweets them. He actually screenshots them. He's like, the new camera's gonna be 1% better than the last one. Jeff D. Lowe, look at his desk. Come on. People walk in and they're like, who's this nerd? He is the perfect 21st century nerd. That's Jeff D. Lowe. That's my list.
So
Such a good pick.
before I got to know Jeff DeLoe, I was like, I don't know what's this guy's problem. The only thing I knew about him was that he got his hair cut every day or something, and I was like, that seems ridiculous. And he doesn't look to me like a nerd. And then I remember talking to Eddie about this. Is back in 2019, and Eddie's like, no, he's like a huge nerd. I'm like, no way. Like, he doesn't scream nerd, and then you get to know him, and you're like, you're the most lovable nerd of all time. And you're right. Like, his production value, you even see it on the dozen. He does an unbelievable
meticulous.
job with that. And so Jeff DeLoe, that is a great pick.
His excitement for some of the most menial shit makes me so happy.
It makes me so the Outback stuff. Oh my god! You tell Jeff D. Lowe he's allowed to do a swipe up for Outback, and he's planning his whole day around it.
Yeah, it was a great.
I love
I'm
Jeff
upset that we'll talk in honorable mentions, but I'm upset that there was one person who was left off your board. But I can't be upset that Jeff D. Lowe took their spot because he is.
Listen, there are some
Unbelievable.
people on my board that I was like, I can't believe I'm going to take Jeff over them, but I got to take Jeff. It's fucking Jeff D. Lowe. He's the man.
I love it. I love just the way and the way everything he does. It's just so his movie graphic for Christmas. His timed out movie graphic for Christmas.
Every year he watches. He has got a Christmas movie schedule that he had 8:03 p.m. local time wherever I am. I put on Elf.
It's unbelievable. I could go an hour more about Jeff.
He's the best. He's the best.
Great pick.
Good people. Love
White
Jeff
Sox
DeLoe.
Dave, you're up.
I hope this pick's appreciated as much as I appreciate this pick. I'm going with Data from the Goonies, Ed.
Fucking one of my favorite
Great.
movies of all time.
Great.
I love Data.
I mean, he's the most lovable nerd of all time. Outside of Jeff, maybe lovable fictional nerd, I'll say. He's just so adorable. His little accent. He's got all the booby traps, the oil in the shoes. He basically is the reason they got to the cave with all the gold and shit. He wouldn't have got there without him.
He uses his nerdiness to provide a helping hand.
Yes.
Yep.
And I appreciate that.
The boys don't, and Andy and the girls, they don't make it through
Without Data. Nope.
They don't.
Very true.
If Data's not a nerd, and he's not using slick shoes
Yeah.
and the pincers of hell, not exactly.
I forget what they said.
Yeah, whatever. It'd be tough. Great call. I love Data.
I think it's a perfect fifth round pick. Obviously, there's other ways you could go. You could actually name real life nerds, but I wanted Data on my fucking team.
Yeah. All right, Carl.
Robbie, did you win the wrestling draft?
I did. Yeah, I'm 1-0.
Yeah, I think Robbie's going to win this one. Can I say that? We're going to the fifth round. I think Robbie has a very clear lead on the field, which means I have to take a little bit of a shot here, right? I got to load the bases. I got to get some runs on the board. I got to do some damage in the fifth round, and I am taking Walter White.
I had him on my board.
I'm taking Walter White, the fucking all-time using nerdery to become the biggest badass. So he becomes Heisenberg, but the fucking Walter White chemistry teacher, I've got cancer, I can't even keep my control, my class in control. That's the season 1 Walter White is just the most
Nerdy dude. He's talking about carbon and shit. Yeah, he's a total.
Didn't
nerd.
even cross my mind, and it's a great pick.
Thanks, Robbie. I still think you're
What's
going
the
to win this
shit
draft.
that
but
he
I
makes that looks like meth that
do
explodes?
like my board here.
What's it called?
Thank you.
What?
The shit that he blows up in Tuco's like little.
Oh, and he
gang.
spikes
He
it on
spikes
the-
it. What's it called again?
I don't know.
I don't know. He did the ricin stuff, though.
Yeah, he
That
did the
was pretty good.
ricin. Poisoned everybody. That fucking uppity bitch. What's her name?
It was a good idea to make like a high school chemistry teacher.
You know
like
how
the
many
most
networks
evil-
passed on that show because they didn't think it would work?
Lydia.
Yeah, Lydia. That's right.
Do you
like
like, it, Ed?
HBO, Fox, a bunch
Breaking
of big
Bad?
time.
The pick.
Yeah, it's a good pick. I want to bring up. I think I could bring it up. You're not going to take these people, but I'd love Robbie's take on the nerds gone bad, like him and Elon and Bezos, like the
Yep.
the nerds who go bad. What's what do you think about that? Is it okay?
I think it's okay for the draft to pick him. Definitely. Gets to the point where, like, by the end of the show, it's tough to call him a nerd because it's like, oh no, he's like a fucking gang leader, kingpin type deal, like hiding in the mountains and shit. But Walter White, I think, is a fine pick, like the chemistry teacher gone bad.
But what do you think about the nerds that just go bad in general? Like they get away from
They
the
become
culture?
evil villains. They become Bond
Like, do you
villains.
resent those guys basically?
I
that they like.
I don't approve. Yeah.
Disavow.
Disavow. Rebuke.
Walter White,
You don't get to come to Comic-Con after that.
he's out. Elon's banned. Chief, you're up.
So I feel like I'm very fictional character heavy, obviously, in mine. I'm going back to that well. I'm taking Smalls from The Sandlot. So I think that is, the guy with the fishing hat. He doesn't really, barely has a glove. He's the new kid. I was always the new kid and moved around a lot. I loved Smalls, and but he was a nerd. He doesn't even know who fucking Babe Ruth is. So I'm taking Smalls from The Sandlot with my last pick.
That fucking brim of that hat.
The brim, yeah.
It's just
Interesting pick from the Sandlot. I feel like there's a two picks from the Sandlot.
You think there's a bigger nerd from The Sandlot? That was like the story. That was like the whole story.
I
It's
mean,
like they got this
Squints.
nerd. See, I think Squints is not
But
as big of a
he-
nerd as Smalls.
I mean, I don't think a nerd pulls off what Squints did with Wendy Peppercorn.
Exactly.
That's like
he just
I
had
feel
glasses.
like it was such a big moment that he pulled it off because he was the nerd.
That's a good spin. That is for sure a good spin.
Was he a nerd or did he just have glasses?
Yeah, I think they're the exact
I
glasses you're
think the
wearing
glasses.
right now.
I think the glasses add to it. I know. Yeah, my uncle made me like a custom Funko Pop, made it look like me, and he just repainted the Smalls one
Yeah, I still think Smalls is a bigger nerd than Squints.
or the Squints. Yeah, that's
I
what
would
meant.
I would agree with Chief right there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Alright,
like
fair
because
enough.
Squints like talks shit and everything.
yeah, he's got some cockiness. to him.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. He's just little with
I wouldn't
glasses.
say Squints is a nerd
Smalls
at
was
all.
an only
actually.
child. He wasn't too sure of himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a little not very confident.
Yeah.
And then he becomes a sports broadcaster, which is a nerd move.
That is a nerd
So,
move.
like, he's a fucking nerd.
Yeah.
Ed,
All right, it's to me, Mr. Irrelevant. I have a couple. I have two, I think, blue chipper fictional characters that aren't going to be drafted because they got to take this guy. It's a real person, and when I said Michael Cera is a quintessential nerd younger boy. The nerd dad, the quintessential nerd dad. He's in so many fucking hits. It's got to be Rick Moranis.
oh yeah,
And I love Rick Moranis so much. He's in so many good movies. I know he doesn't act anymore, but he's coming back for the new Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
You know the reason why he doesn't act, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
yeah, because you just want to raise his
Yeah.
kids like
Yeah.
normal or some shit.
Yeah.
like be a normal dad.
He's like, I'm out. I
He's
just
like,
wanna
I'm done.
raise-
I made my
yeah.
money. I just want to have kids now.
So many good
and then
movies.
he's getting punched in the streets of New York.
Yeah,
That was
Yeah,
fucked
that's
up. That
fucked
was
up.
fucked up.
I love him.
Unbelievable.
That was like everybody's dad got. It was like, you could get in a video of like, I felt like my dad was getting attacked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little Giants is probably his best
Awesome.
nerdy dad work.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to disparage Honey, I Shrunk the Kids or Blew Up the Kids.
Blew up
No.
the kids. I didn't really like.
I mean, even in Spaceballs, he's the
Spaceballs.
nerdy Darth Vader.
Spaceballs. Yeah, he's great in Spaceballs.
Unbelievable in Spaceballs.
So funny.
I
Darth
love
Vader.
Rick
Yeah,
Moranis.
that's a great Mr.
I wrote a
Irrelevant.
tribute blog to him just randomly one time in like 2016.
Yeah.
He's my favorite. I'm
Great pick.
I'm
Great
pumped to
pick.
see him come back. So
What were
that's-
White Sox Dave's last two picks?
His last two were
Millhouse and Data.
Mailhouse and Data. Yeah. Why, you got something on those?
No,
Oh,
I like to keep my own records of.
Yeah, I do that too.
not even a mention. He was the. I mean, we didn't even bring up Ghostbusters for.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, I
right,
mean,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Ghostbusters would have been great.
So I'll read these and then we'll do some honorable mentions. We'll get out of here. Robbie Stanley, Ned Flanders, Dwight Schrute, George Lucas, Jeff T. Lowe. Whitesoxdave, Darren Ravel, Mark Zuckerberg, Newman, Millhouse, Data, Carl, Bill James, Steve Urkel, George R. Martin, Albert Einstein, Walter White, Chief Jim Levinston, Matthew Berry, George McFly, Laney Boggs, and Smalls, Eddie McLovin, Michael Sarah, Andy from 40-Year-Old Virgin, Minkus, and Rick Moranis. So my 2 blue chippers, if we're doing honorable mentions, that weren't drafted.
I've got
were
one too.
Brian Johnson from The Breakfast Club.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I like that.
Cameron from Ferris Bueller.
Yep.
I have one of my
Carl-
stupid
Carl
funny
Cam had
stories.
issues, man. He had
Carlton
some like
Banks.
bad issues.
He did, but he was still like the uptight,
Yeah.
like
I got a story.
Carlton Banks is
Can I
good.
tell a
think
story?
Carlton Banks is like in that 3rd, 4th round tier of like on TV 90s. He was
Yeah.
good. He was good. He was in my
I
consideration.
mean, we
for
all
5th round.
passed on the one because the most obvious one, I think, from the 90s was Screech, but I don't think anybody wanted to draft him
Oh.
for obvious reasons.
I thought
Oh,
that would have
yeah.
been a good pick if you took him. He wasn't on my
Yeah.
list.
Yeah,
I
but
do
We
all
all
right.
passed on like some of the obvious, like
Yeah,
the
I passed on
Bezos and
Stephen
Musk and,
Hawking.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, like those
Stephen
are kind of
Hawking.
boring though. It's like
You're right,
who wants
yeah.
to pick those?
I thought
Like,
those-
we
yeah,
picked
those
all
would be
people
tough
that
to
like
take a
kind of meant a
billionaire.
lot to us, you know.
Yeah.
What about this for you, Robbie? And I thought when you picked George Lucas, I almost considered taking Dave Filoni after that because it's
I
like
don't even know who that
Filoni took
know who that is?
George Lucas's stuff and then became like the
He
biggest
was
nerd.
the fan that became the creator. Yeah.
And isn't he
wouldn't
like in
play-
charge
he
of
wouldn't
it
play as
now?
well on the graphic.
No, he wouldn't. But isn't he in charge of it now, or what's his role with the in
He
Star Wars
just does
universe?
he just does the stuff with the Mandalorian with Favreau now, and now he'll do Ahsoka, he'll do Rangers of the New Republic, a few of the spin-offs, but the overarching thing he doesn't control yet.
Do you have a favorite
think he will.
spinoff?
Mandalorian so far, yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. Mandalorian I think is the best thing they've done since like the original trilogy even.
Okay.
Oh,
I have to-
White Sox Dave's got a story, and I know we can't. Like, I know.
I so you
He's
brought up
itching.
Cameron from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So this is like 4 years ago or so. I'm walking home with my roommate. Who? Carl?
Pat.
Pat Becker. We're walking home from a softball game. It's the middle of like
you know
the week.
Pat Becker, Robbie?
And
No.
Did he go to
literally
Northwestern?
10 feet away from this office, I see Alan Ruck and Gina
Wisconsin.
Davis filming a scene for The Exorcist, which was being. So I watched it getting filmed. It was on like a Tuesday night. Alan Rucks, who played Cameron. And so they had all the cameras. They had the whole seat. And we just watched it from the bushes right over here. There's this that gold roof building right there. They turned it into a morgue for the TV show.
The Ukrainian church.
Yeah, this church right over here.
Yeah.
This Ukrainian like thing
So
over
you
here.
say it in the bushes with Pat?
There was a bunch of people watching, and we're like, what the fuck is this? And they wouldn't let us take any videos or anything, so we tried to sneak them. Didn't really get any good shots, but Alan Ruck was about 10 feet from this office.
Yeah.
Hey.
But you're right, he did have problems, but he was.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, but
I've got
he's a good nerd.
I've got 4 honorable mentions on my list.
Can
that
I
didn't
say
get
two?
to.
Can I say two really quick?
Oh yeah, who was
one-
the person that you were surprised about?
Kevin Smith?
Oh, that's a good. But Kevin Smith is another one who's like, yes, he's the king of nerds and he's the king of like nerd culture right now. But he would be one where some people would be like, Kevin's the Clerks guy, like Silent Bob. He's nerdy. Like some people would be like, really?
I saw his
Although,
stand-up, and
I
I, thought
agree,
he
you're
was
right.
cool. I thought he was a really cool guy. Or maybe it wasn't a
he's like
stand-up
such a
thing. It was
smooth,
like a
cool nerd. Yeah.
He's the man.
Yeah, he does like a Q&A. Like,
Yeah, it wasn't stand-up, but you know what I'm
it's
saying.
sort of like stand-up, yeah. My 4 are all fictional. Doc Brown, I kind of alluded to when you
Yeah.
took George. And then I've got Fuller from Home Alone. Easy on the
Oh,
Pepsi.
that
Fuller.
would have been
yeah.
a fucking great one. That would have been a great
I've got
one.
Donatello from the Ninja Turtles.
Ooh,
Good one.
that's a very good one.
And I've got Velma from Scooby-Doo. You know,
Yeah.
Jinkies, where's my glasses? That's
Yeah.
such a nerdy, you know, whenever I lose my glasses, Jinky is just the first thing that
How
comes
you
to mind.
pivoted to that is just you're a good drafter, Rob. You did.
Yeah.
a
Listen,
great
I
job.
think I'm just a nerd. I think that's what it is.
I think you're winning this.
Yeah, he's going to win this by a lot, I think.
Yeah.
And
I
then
had Kyle Hendricks and Lisa Simpson and Stephen Hawking. That didn't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
Lisa
Martin
Simpson.
from The Simpsons is the next.
and Martin. Of course.
Michelle from Bandcamp.
He wears the.
Yeah, which I referenced
yeah.
her. Yeah,
She turns into a fucking freak of nature, though. I don't know if.
she's still a nerd.
Yeah,
Nerds
she's
can-
a nerd.
nerds can be sexual, Dave.
I had Tim Duncan on there.
Will Hunting, I
That's
would
not
not
bad.
say.
That's not bad. Tim Duncan's not bad.
Will Hunting's not a nerd.
I thought about Bob Burnquist for a second, just because
Ooh.
he was the skateboarder with sports goggles back in the day. I kind of took pride in that.
And then we talked Rick Moranis. We talked Little Giants. I didn't know the kid's name. The kid's name is Newbie, But the kid who creates the annexation
Yeah,
of Puerto
that's true.
Rico
Yeah.
and just has a computer
Yeah.
and doesn't play,
Yep.
I mean, that guy's.
Well, I mean, if we were just doing nerdy stuff, the annexation of Puerto Rico is like a first round nerdy thing.
Yeah. It is.
I just had Stephen Hawking and J.R.R. Tolkien, and I had Ben Franklin. You know,
Yeah,
I
Ben
didn't-
Franklin's-
there's an
Didn't he
opportunity
die of
there.
syphilis?
he's a
something?
nerd.
Huge nerd,
Oh,
right?
really?
Franklin? He was banging French prostitutes left and right.
Yeah, he died of syphilis.
Banging hookers
right?
doesn't make you a nerd or not a nerd. That just
I
means
think
you
he
like
also
banging
is-
hookers.
Yeah, I think he was also banging like French aristocrats too. I don't know if he was a nerd or not.
He invented a bunch of shit.
It's tough to say because we don't know him, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you just have to rely on the fact that he was an inventor and.
Would Kyle?
you know.
All right. Would Kyle Hendricks have been a good pick?
I think so.
I mean, it's just when it doesn't pop really.
Hey, I didn't get a chance to do my thing because I won the last draft.
You're right. My apologies.
So here's my 30 seconds. I think we should get away from anonymous drafts because I've won 6 drafts of 14 this year, and I think part of it was to get rid of like the winning and it's like, oh well, this skews it. So my position is maybe we get away from it because I think it's more fun on Tuesday night when we're all fucking jawing at each other. It's the only thing I say.
All right.
Where's Danny?
Anybody else have any other honorable mentions?
I'm
That's
all
all we
out.
got.
There's a
All
couple
right, Robbie.
great
What's
honorable
where
mentions
could
there.
the people find all the nerd shit if they're interested?
So my mom's basement, we're doing a big push for the YouTube stuff. Me and Clem are doing a lot of videos when like nerdy news breaks now. So we'll hop on there for like 10 minutes, basically do a 10-minute podcast. We do recaps of all the Marvel shows every Monday. So Falcon and Winter Soldier, we'll do Loki in the future. We'll do the movies, all that stuff. My mom's basement on YouTube. Subscribe.
Beautiful. Go check out My Mom's Basement. Robbie, great performance. Always great to have you, 2-time guest. That's it for today, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll see you then.